Hey everyone, my name's Kevin and I'm here today to talk to you about virtual reality. I teach adult education in Saanich, BC. I'm also a student in UBC's Master of Educational Technology program. I've owned a PlayStation VR for almost 2 years now, and I've also dabbled in mobile VR. I've actually used VR with my students several times in the classroom, using their experiences as hooks and inspirations for their writing projects, but none of these projects have been rooted in any concrete pedagogy, and therefore it's really difficult to assess their actual educational value. This uncertainty, combined with the cumbersome nature of moving my rig to work and back home, has made me wary of planning further lessons around wired VR. My goal here is to examine the affordances, limitations, and challenges of both wired and mobile VR in order to assess the actual viability of using mobile VR in education. Virtual reality dates back arguably as far as 1956, but it wasn't until 2015 when Sony, HTC, and Facebook unveiled consumer-ready, high-end wired VR units that people actually began to take notice. All three units have decreased in price over the past 2 years, currently ranging now in price from the high-end $500 US HTC Vive to the cheaper $300 PlayStation VR. Similar to many other emerging technologies, some believe that VR has the potential to shake up the status quo in education. So what are some of the unique affordances that VR can offer? Well, first, it's completely immersive, allowing users to step into the shoes of anyone from a surgeon to an eagle. These immersive experiences can allow students to engage in tasks risk-free that would otherwise be too dangerous or risky in the real world. VR can allow students to explore places and times that would otherwise be unreachable without a massive bank account or a time machine. Wired VR can allow students to sit on the Mars rover or walk smack dab into the middle of the Civil War. Another affordance of VR is that it can potentially provide a unique level of embodied learning. One example is the Machine to Be Another project, which allows students to swap genders or experience what it's like to be bound to a wheelchair. These experiences can teach students empathy by allowing them to virtually embody another person. So if it's so great, why doesn't everybody get VR? Well, first, though they've gotten cheaper, wired VR units are still prohibitively expensive, requiring high-end computers to function, running the total costs upwards of $3,000 for a complete package. Even the cheapest wired VR unit, the PlayStation VR, can cost up to $1,000. Few schools, if any, can actually afford to purchase wired VR units because of this. Second, wired VR takes space to house. The HTC Vive uses cameras around the room to track motion, essentially requiring a semi-permanent space. With so many schools already tight for space, this is a huge barrier. Last, wired VR still has latency issues which can cause motion sickness. Some adjustments can help, but many people simply can't avoid VR motion sickness, limiting accessibility. So while wired VR still has the potential to provide truly unique learning opportunities, the barriers to entry may just be too steep. So what are the alternatives? Enter mobile VR. Mobile VR has two basic options. First, it can be accessed via a modern mobile phone inserted to a headset like the minimalist Google Cardboard or advanced Google Daydream or Samsung Gear VR. The upside of this option being that the actual headsets are far cheaper than wired VR headsets, starting as low as $10. However, it must be noted that users still require a reasonably powerful smartphone to power the VR experiences. Given the ubiquity of mobile devices, this is far less of a concern than it would have been, say, 5 years ago. The downside of this option is that screen resolution and processing power just can't match that of wired VR, lessening the immersion and limiting the experience. In 2018, Facebook launched a bridge between the two platforms, releasing a standalone mobile VR unit called Oculus Go, which does not require a smartphone or PC to work. This is a cost savings to wired VR, but has the same relative limitations as the smartphone option. So if the experiences are limited and the resolution is an issue, what exactly can mobile VR do that wired VR can't? Perhaps the biggest benefit of mobile VR is its ability to be used anytime, anywhere. With Google Expeditions, students can put on a headset and take off to the Great Barrier Reef or even Antarctica, and they can do so at their desks, in a park, or anywhere they can access Wi-Fi or a network. Just because VR has the potential to offer unique experiences doesn't mean teachers should run out and purchase units for their classrooms. I argue that a cautious approach is necessary. This uncertainty stems from a lack of strong pedagogy surrounding VR. Head back to the site for a look at what the research says and a peek at my conclusions.